Welcome back, everyone, to Tarot Journeys with Guy. How's everybody doing out there? Wow, October surprise, here we are. So since we sat last time, we've seen massive disaster in the south of the United States with Hurricane Helene. Simultaneously, we've got this thing with Iran and Israel, right? Escalation of furtherment of this conflict. And we've got this massive port workers strike that's all come up at the same time. And then a rash of stabbings and havoc in Europe. And the issues with the migrant problem and the housing and letting these people in and all the crime that's being caused, it's rampant, okay? Now, perfect storm. It's almost like it's all perfectly timed. In fact, I think it is. I really do. Now, the thing with the hurricane is pretty awful, okay? And so, and I mean, people all over the planet are going through various different crises, okay? Thing in the States is, it's a lot of people's homes are wiped out and cut off from the infrastructure, but it shows, again, who is for the people and who isn't. Okay, so right away we've got President Trump going in there and getting Elon Musk to pledge help and taking over the role of what the president should be doing. Okay, so that's a really good thing. And then this thing with the port workers strike. It's perfectly timed. It's a perfectly timed scenario, right? They waited for this, okay? Even though a lot of the concerns might be legitimate, right? But the shutting down of the eastern seaboard of the United States is part of the economic downturn or the attack on the economy, let's say. Now, the thing with the hurricane, though, a lot of people kind of believe that weather manipulation is involved, okay? And it very well may have been. Yes, for sure. Very easy for them to take a naturally forming hurricane, heat it in the ocean, and subtly manipulate it to move in particular areas. Yes, they really can do this. Now, I don't want to get too alarmist, but it's part of this multi-pronged attack. And then we see this ramping up of situation with Israel and Iran, and Israel going after Iran now. But it's part of the deep state's plan. It really is. It's on purpose, right? So part of that whole plan, which had been, I guess, hijacked, part of it was to collapse the United States, collapse the UK, collapse the Western nations, collapse the economies of these places, right? Create division and compartmentalize the populace, demify one group while protecting another. And then the whole depopulation, human experimentation, population control is also part of that program. And then on the back end of it, instilling a totalitarian system that's global in nature. It's not just in one particular country, right? So yes, and we're seeing it happen. And that's why the United States right now, this is the center point, right? So yeah, and then we saw last night too the debate with J.D. Vance and Tim Walz, which honestly was very like maybe not even worth watching, but in a way maybe it was. All things are weaponized. All people are weaponized. Everything that we see on the screens right now is weaponized to a certain degree. Okay, and so there is a deep state war where these guys are vying for each other. So yeah, there's a few things I don't really like what both were kind of talking about, downplaying the importance of private property, that's that's part of their plan, is to destroy private property and people's ability to own and to buy into properties, right? And they've been making this for a long time, right? That's one of the foundations of the middle class, of a free market, free society in a lot of ways. And then the other thing is holy cow, the deep state mockingbird media, like these moderators talking about like the climate crisis and the climate change. And like, this is what I'm saying, is like, these people are gaslighting the populace. And so, yes, there is a climate crisis. The deep state might be altering the weather they might be weaponizing the weather. That's very plausible and very feasible. Okay. And so, but that's besides the point. It's another one of those hooks to kind of trap us, right? And I mean, there was another thing, JD Vance kind of fact-checked the fact-checker, which was good, right? And there was a few things that he did really well-spoken, right? As he should be. These guys are actors, right? And I mean, Tim Walz looks miles better than Kamala Harris, but guy is such a bought and sold puppet. It's not even funny, okay? And we got to just remember all the things, like there's so many lies that these guys keep perpetuating. Like a lot of things that both the Kamala, the Walz are claiming that they support. A few years ago, it was dead opposite. And they blame everything on the Trump administration. And it's not true. Yeah, amazing. Absolutely amazing. And it's not a surprise. Like this October surprise isn't so much of a surprise for any of us. We were waiting for all of this to happen. I definitely could see some kind of multi-pronged, like something happening where events would simultaneously kick off at once to cause global confusion. Okay. And to keep escalating us further and further into a global conflict, a forever war, I want to call it, because I think it's very contrived, a lot of it. Okay, so what we saw was an Iranian attack on Israel. Hundreds of ballistic missiles, right, that were launched from Iran into Israel, but there was no damage. Israel's Iron Dome were able to pretty much shoot down most of it, and it's okay. So that was that thing, right? So that's that escalation. Now we're waiting for Israel's reprisal, right? But before that was this invasion into Lebanon, and that's why Iran attacked, was because of the death of the Hamas leadership and also the Hezbollah leadership, and then this invasion into Lebanon, right? Perfectly timed for the perfect storm for this, right, lead up to the election period and what it will spell out for the rest of the world. Okay, so let's jump into the reading, see what we're supposed to hear, see what message we're supposed to receive. What's next? What do we need to hear, and what guidance will help us move forward, and then we'll move on from there. Yeah, we're right in the end game, man. And these guys, people, okay, like this is another thing that we were prepared for. Now look at this card, the 5 of Cups here, right? I mean, this guy, look at him. It's a very dark card, even though the cards are very colorful, right? And when it's reversed, it's like that darkness, that disappointment, the deception is leaving, it's shifting, right? But this is what we were prepared for, is this sort of notion, or that things were going to have to get very dark in order for the light to come forward. And we are in this period. It potentially could get darker. That's something that we have to be prepared for, okay? And just like the disaster in the South and the States right now, and prayers, and like how everybody's saying, it's like prayers for the people that are in turmoil, that need help, prayers for the people all over the planet that are in turmoil, that are in need of help. that are in really dire situations, because it's everywhere. This, right? But this is a flashpoint in this deep state war that we're waging. Okay, all of this stuff has to be exposed. Everything has to come to the surface. Okay, these guys, man, these suckers, the power cabal, these deep state guys are crying and shaking in their boots right now. They really are. I mean, they kind of understand that. They understand what's going on, okay? And this is kind of what I was saying. It's sort of like they're going into sort of the next phase of it. It's like, okay, well, what after President Trump gets in? What kind of crap are we going to start then? Setting the stage for future events like this war, this tippy toe, both with the Israel and Iran thing and Ukraine, and I should call it NATO and Russia, but Ukraine and Russia. It's this tippy toe to Armageddon, the tippy toe to destruction. But it's always to keep us on that precipice of, oh, what's going to happen next? Oh my God, we're going to, right? But it becomes more and more dangerous, and the gamble becomes more and more as these guys are allowed to continue. Okay, so that was the thing. Failed virus op, but it failed because a lot of it's being covered up. But it's like, that's one of the things that they've got kind of in their back pockets still, and it has to be sort of really, that's a pressing issue. I mean, how they are trying to manipulate families and control everything, like put the state in everything. This, right? And it's through their whole vaccination program, partly, and the medical. That's why I'm pointing at the 10 of Pentacles and the Strength card. Strength is our vital health, okay? But these are the things that have awakened people. This is and I probably have been saying this quite a bit, actually, to be honest with you. I mean, this is a big part of what we're dealing with. So what people you can't shy away right now. You cannot shy away at all. You have to bear it. It's like, face the storm. We have to face this storm, no matter what. I mean, realize that there are other people now. It's not just you and me, just one person. There's many of us. There are stronger people in front of us. There are people behind us that will support us. We can be sheltered by each other. It's real. This is it. We are entering into that period. Okay? And that it's a good thing. It's a really positive thing, because many of us were prepared for it. That's why I'm not so tricked by a lot of stuff. I mean, I'm living in Canada. Okay, Canada is sort of a backwoods. But no, I mean, the mind virus is strong here, and the mind op is strong, and the mental control and all of the things are very real. And I mean, we got to remember what helped sort of shut down COVID, and it had a lot to do with the people, good-hearted people in the Western world, refusing to go towards violence, but also refusing to go along, and civil disobedience, man. And that's what's going to keep us through, right? So we got to keep going, right? I mean, this thing with the economy, I mean, this is what I was seeing. So funny, in my couple readings back, I saw something like a disaster. The Tower card came up, right? And that's usually a disaster. And usually when it's the right side up, it's a surprise, right? My mind is so on the PSYOP, on the deep state actions and all of this stuff, that sometimes I have a hard time. Like, I didn't really see the hurricane. I did follow it. I was kind of really hoping that it wasn't going to be as disastrous as they were saying. That was really my hope. I mean, there's so much stuff going on, right? That and right now it's being passed over, right? But that's the thing, we got to keep in mind, there are sort of natural events in the world too, right? And I mean, this is what I'm saying. It's like, it's hard to tell, right? Especially when they've been gaslighting us about the technology that they've been using, and the fact that they've been manipulating the weather, right? And so we don't know, right? But they're doing everything. So yeah, the economy, that was the other thing. It was sort of like they're leaving the economy for the last. It's kind of like during the Q era too, they talked about, there was a thing of they will leave Israel for the last and the economy will be one of the last chips to fall kind of deal. But it was, and that's what we're seeing. We're seeing sort of some of that stuff play out, right? And this thing with the dock workers is a big part of that power play around the economy, right? So, but like I was saying, it's like these operations are being piggybacked. There's reasons for this. They're playing this. It is a chess game, right? So we have to kind of wait and see. But like this thing might get resolved right away, right? That's the other deal. But the economy, lawfare, like, I mean, they're going after anybody and everybody that is not in line. I mean, who was it? The mayor of New York, deep state Democrat mayor that didn't want to go along with the migrant crisis at the beginning. And now, and he's corrupt as hell, that guy. And they're going after him. What was it? Embezzlement and some kind of fraud, wire fraud or something. But it's almost identical to the Trump thing, but not, right? Because he was an agent, but no longer wanted to play along, and he was maybe too cocky for his own good. I'm not sure, but the lawfare is a big thing. They're still trying to pull that out with President Trump. I mean, Alex Jones was another one. I mean, Alex Jones is a strange character, but he was a template in a lot of ways. They started going after him. There was a handful of people and it was before Trump started to before he was voted into the presidency in 2016, but afterwards there was a handful of people that the deep state started to go after, and they're using him as a template. And this is what they're all talking about, right? But they are. Whether he's controlled opposition or a useful idiot or totally on point, that's what I'm saying. There's a lot of these influencers out there. I'm not really sure, right? It's very odd. It's very similar. His whole operation is going on auction in November after the election. Same with this thing with Trump, with the arraignment of Trump, of what's going to actually happen to him. Odd how it's all sort of timed, I mean, he's not the only one. These are like all these big players. They're using them as the template so that they could go after everybody. They want to censor everybody. They want to dispose of anybody that is dissenting, right? And that's the thing. It's like, it's so in history where these people that for the most part come about with the concern of, especially from the socialist end of it, it turns bad. It always does. It's so apparent. Okay. Yeah, and their gaslighting operation, their psychological projection, Operation Mockingbird with the media and all that isn't working. Isn't working, and they realize it, and they're getting to the point where it's just like there's not much else. I mean, we'll see, because they're what else do they've got? This is it. Trigger a massive war, trigger a nuclear exchange, trigger something like that, right? Release a virus, collapse the economy completely. I mean, people are talking to threatening cyber attack, that's the next one. So they might do that, create a cyber attack, blame it on Russia, blame it on Iran, blame it on all the above, blame it on China. They've already said that they would use, Hillary Clinton was talking about that, that a cyber attack is a justification for war in their mind, right? But let's see. This is part of the whole play. Okay. So what next? What do we need to prepare for? What's going to happen in the next couple of days? Do another spread like the first one. Okay, so King of Cups reversed is liar, 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 liar. Man, there's so many liars. They're all liars, in fact. I mean, pretty much like, you can almost like rest assured that anybody that President Trump publicly has pointed a finger at and called a liar directly, they're liars, for sure. You got to keep in mind, there is a lot of things that cannot be, I mean, they've had to shift their gear. This is what we saw with JD Vance last night. I mean, got to be, a bit of the nice guy, can't be the mean guy. They're trying to win confidence of people, okay? But this is a thing of broken trust. There's no trust in anything. And I mean, this is what we're going to see with this thing in the South, like Georgia, North Carolina, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Florida. All of them, but I think it was North Carolina that was hit the hardest, maybe. It was the surge waters and the flood waters. Wiped out all of these towns and everything. And then, but you're going to see, and we're already seeing, it's like, there's going to be no money for them. All of that money is going to go to illegal migrants, these migrants that are coming over. That's why they're coming to the States. That's why they're coming to the Western world, is to get the money, to get all the resources, and they're getting it. I mean, it's terrible. That's what we're going to see. And people need to be vocal about it. People need to call out these guys for being liars. Tim Walz last night, same thing, like same with the Kamala debate. You could go through that whole debate and just list all the different points that he talked about, and there's like there's about 12 things that he directly lied about. Guys, they're all liars, right? I mean, the thing with the mainstream media, and they're always pushing certain ideas, okay? Like, for instance, yes, like the fertility right thing, and all of that, and the ability to do so or not, and the ban and all of that is definitely a valid issue. But is it for first and foremost on everybody's minds? No, I don't know if it is. I'm not really sure. It's another gaslight. What are they doing on the back end of that whole infrastructure? It's huge. It's a horror show. That's what they should be talking about, but they're not. Right? They're trying to make a social issue. They're politicizing a social issue, right? And it's good that the situation got turned over. President Trump did the right thing. And they lied. They were just lying. They say, well, President Trump will say he's going to do this, and he's like, no, he's not. President Trump did this. President Trump was guilty for that. No, he wasn't. He was found innocent. Like the whole J6 thing is just fallen completely apart. They keep pushing it. This is what I'm saying. Liars, liars, liars. Who do we trust then? We have to trust ourselves. We have to find the people around us that we're connected to. And that's what I was saying. It's like, we're not alone anymore. Especially with this, like what I'm talking about right now. We're totally not alone. Yeah, the plan is broken. Man, I mean, the, what is it, X22 report guide talks about going back to the Q era, I mean, with the Obama administration and the creation of a 16-year plan, okay? And how, by the time of that 16 years, which is now, the United States was to be collapsed, the resources were to be shifted over to other power blocks in the world, and we're to be engaging in a global socialist state with the whole social credit system in place and forced vaccinations and it's, all of that stuff, right? But that's what's been dismantled, right? So yeah, it's just telling me what we need to sort of do. We're there to be like the BS detectors for these guys, all of us on the internet, all of us that are paying attention to all this stuff, that are sharing information. It's super important. That's why they want to censor everybody. All of the lies are just piling up on these guys. So crazy. We have to be careful because they have inserted people. Like, I mean, okay, so like with this Obama thing, with the then what we saw with Russiagate and the impeachment and all of this, right, was that the Obama administration had created stay-behind groups that were to run as a shadow players and a shadow government. And in a way, that's how they were able to sort of take over and create the circumstance for 2020, okay? But that's what they got caught, and they got caught censoring and spying on President Trump, on everybody, okay? And in a lot of ways, that's part of the string pull, goes back to that, right? This is why, P. Diddy, they're not talking about that. P. Diddy, Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, right? She got charged, I guess, but like, where's all those names? Who is actually connected to like P. Diddy? Well, like I was saying, it's the very top of the top. And it's like, this is part of what's coming out. I think he was in a hearing, I'm not sure, but like the tapes, all this footage that he collected, right? There's some very prominent people apparently, right? It's being pushed around, but it's also too, we're in the information war, a lot of AI driven, a lot of fake stuff. Yeah, Trump, the one thing that he did he is falling into some of their traps. I mean, I do agree with that. Like right, he's kind of falling into this thing of like, well, the Iranians are part of that assassination attempt, right? And it's like, no, man, it's the deep state. How many billions of dollars did the Biden Obamas give Iran? Right? I mean, it's just, all of the connections go back to these players, these bad actors, right? And so, like this war rhetoric, getting trapped into sort of like a war. Trump needs to understand that this thing with Iran is also another contrived circumstance. Like for instance, I really don't think China, Russia, nor Iran or North Korea, the evil axis or whatever, but China, Russia, and Iran, I don't think they have the resources to fight a protracted war. I just don't. They are paper tigers. Their whole societies, everything is based on, partly on face and lies and brutality and authoritarianism right now. And yeah, China is definitely up there, and same with Russia with, weapons research and technology and all of that, but it's also this thing of a ruse and a cover, right? Nothing can be believed from the communist world at all. And nothing can really be believed from Russia. Not until that whole thing, this whole authoritarian, totalitarian impulse is dealt with. That's why the United States is so important. The checks and balances, that was the other thing we saw. We saw a whole bunch of these guys, these mainline, some of them were cabinet ministers or cabinet people in the Biden administration, some woman, but John Kerry, there was somebody else talking about the elimination of the First Amendment, of free speech, of the judiciary, like your whole country, everything that was good about it was based on the checks and balances that were created as a system of governance, so that not one particular area could become authoritarian. Right? It was there to balance power, right? And that's what they're trying to sort of destroy. It's so obvious, man. But that's the thing. These guys got to be called out. We got to be careful. They've got this thing, right? It's like, and that's what we saw with President Trump's administration. It's been chaos. It's been nuts. The whole time. I mean, Biden's administration was even more, right? But as soon as Trump got in, these guys went into overdrive. Thing is they don't have the infrastructure. That's a big part of their issue, but they've got this thing where they're like, man, we're gonna not only are we going to extend this for years, but we're going to do it in various places, and it's going to be this thing like the juggler with this Two of Pentacles, right? But I think it's going to be around the economy. That's what they've got planned. And I wouldn't even be surprised. So like, President Trump gets into power, right? Gets voted in a month. Next day, if not that day, collapse. Something. This is exactly what they did with the COVID lockdowns. This is what they did with the like everything is just they've got it so timed, and for the most part, people just pass this stuff off as like, oh, this just happens, right? Meanwhile, they're totally covering their tracks, right? But the global economy is on the brink. I mean, has been for a while. Maybe has been for like the last few years. What else am I seeing here though? I'm not really seeing anything. Yeah, I'm not really seeing anything major. I mean, escalation, right? Escalation of events. And now we get to see the left side lose it and melt down. We got to get through this period, this election, and then up to the inauguration. Because what we saw with Trump after the election was rigged and they inserted Biden, what we saw in that lead up, that period, that 100+ days or whatever, right at the end, right towards the J6, we saw an executive order, a very auspicious one, that kind of basically took away the autonomy of the alphabet soup agencies, of them operating, and putting it into the hands of the Department of Defense and the executive branch, which is president. Okay? They are going to do something very similar. They like in that time period. That is that murky time period where who's in charge? This is where we see this continuity of government, this secret deep state organized, like this group, this establishment come to the surface. And that's when they're going to trigger events, and the way that they're doing it now is very different than from the Obama thing. I think what the Obama, that whole chain, they're all scrambling to cover their tracks right now, like massively. Okay, so you got to remember what I said at the beginning of the reading. Six of Swords is a moving out of fearful times, out of dark waters, right? Like the card here, we've got the turbulent waters and they're moving, right? And we got to keep in mind the swords are of the mind. So this thing of it becoming darker before it is light, things seemingly getting worse, that's part of that. This is part of that information war. It's what they want people to sort of pay attention to, right? And not the other way, not the other scenario, what's actually taking place where things are kind of coming together. This is what we wanted. We wanted a lot of this stuff to be exposed. And I mean, it's like, man, these guys cannot bear any more, like, we all can't bear any more BS from these jokers, these bad actors, right? But they can't take on anymore. It's becoming so obvious. And that's, right? And so that's what we got to sort of be aware of, that we are moving towards sort of a better time. It's not just hopium. I don't know if I see that. I feel it. Don't entirely see it yet. Okay? But I definitely feel it. I think, man, there's so many different positive things that have happened that need to happen, that have come to the surface, right? I mean, family is definitely one of the most important things. Ten of Cups in some ways. I mean, there's a family here, right? And we are all in that human family. And I mean, this is our opportunity. Yeah, their whole thing is being dismantled, so it's dangerous, right? But what it does is it puts us into a situation where the people become more independent, I guess, more, I guess, self-sufficient, right? But yet that infrastructure isn't being dismantled because of them. It's now being dismantled because it needs to be. Okay, that's a different scenario, but we're still in the thralls of this. Like they want to collapse the UK and the United States, man. That's a big part of the last geopolitical order. Okay, and it will be a template. Like, for instance, people in Canada, on a smaller scale, what you see in the UK, this is what's going to happen in Canada. The same thing like with our politic here. It's like we've got a uniparty problem. You kick out one group and you get a worse scenario. This is what we saw with the Liberals here. That's what they're seeing with the Labor, right? And it's the same in the States, I guess, right? Tens talk about that. Tens talk about the completion of a cycle. And so that's what we're being prepared for. And we have to be able to drop a lot of the burdens from the previous eras, right? But like I was saying before, it's what's really helping us move into this new time and help heal the situation, right? So that's where our direction needs to be, is our mind and our aim needs to be in the immediate future. We need to be present, but as far as our future aims, into this new time, into this completion of a cycle, into a new beginning. Sound good? I hope everybody enjoyed. So hit that like button, make sure you subscribe, and I hope to see you on the next one. Bye-bye.